Thank you so much. I'm Matthew Prince. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Cloudflare, and we're really excited to be here to talk about what we're doing with the AMP project and how we're addressing some of the biggest concerns. But before we did that, a lot of you in the audience are actually Cloudflare customers, but some of you might not know what Cloudflare is. And at some level, we're sort of a boring infrastructure company that sits behind the scenes. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about us first. So Cloudflare's mission is to help build a better internet. And we run one of the largest networks in the world with points of presence, over 100 points of presence in 50 countries around the world, spanning not so exotic places like Newark, New Jersey, just across the river here, we have 25 points of presence across mainland China. We're building across Africa, Latin America, a lot of places around the world where people are consuming the internet and where the internet is largely mobile and where it's just too slow and too expensive to actually be loading. We see about 10 million requests per second through our network. About 10% of all internet requests pass through us. You all in this room, even in probably the first few hours of this morning, have probably used our network maybe hundreds of times. And when we're doing our job right, we just make things work better behind the scenes. Now, we have literally millions of customers, over 6 million customers. And the ones that we're really focused on today are the ones in sort of the media and ad tech space that we're providing services for. We solve a lot of the internet's hardest problems: performance, security, reliability, insights, analytics, and data. But one of the things which is core to us is making sure that the internet is extremely fast. And mobile performance has been one of the key issues that we've been thinking about and working on for a long time. And so when Dane Connect, who is a senior member of our team, brought me this mission statement, this list of bullet points from the AMP project over a year ago, and said, this is going to be the future of the mobile web, and this is really important. We looked down this list and we said, wow, this really aligns almost exactly with what Cloudflare's mission is. Our mission is to help build a better internet. Our mission is to give developers the tools to make sure that they can actually build great products, great services, publish great content, regardless of where they're trying to deliver it online. And we want to make sure it's as easy to use, as user-friendly as possible, and great for developers as we're going along. This is our mission, and this is the AMP mission as well. And so it was just a no-brainer that we should be involved with the AMP project. One of the things we also believe incredibly strongly in is that the future of the web needs to be open, and it needs to be something that we all share. It shouldn't be dominated by one particular company. And there is another company which is out there that is working on another sort of version of the making the web faster. And there's a contrast, really between these. Google isn't the only one who wants to make the internet faster. And I mean, I don't want to be overly dramatic, but it kind of reminds me of another story of sort of good versus evil that involved a lightning bolt. And again, what we think is important is, and what we've really, really liked in working with Google, is that they believe that the AMP project shouldn't be owned and controlled by Google. It should be open. There should be other caches. There should be others that are building and supporting this project. And so when we heard that, we said, that's awesome. That's exactly the sort of thing that we can get behind. And it's important for other providers to be providing parts of the AMP ecosystem because, again, Voldemort v. Voldemort isn't a very interesting story. We need to be the Harry Potters of this world and be open to what it is. And that's in everyone's interest in this room. And what I'm encouraged by is Google thinks that's in their interest as well. Now, it's not all sort of flowers and roses. Not everything is perfect. If you listened to the talks yesterday, you heard a lot of different challenges with the AMP ecosystem. And I think there are sort of three that we've identified as three of the largest challenges. One is there's limited discovery. Second is that the brand that you have right now, there are negative brand effects that are possible if you're embracing AMP. And the third is monetization just isn't there. So let me walk through each of those and give you some sense. So 90%, more than 90% of traffic to AMP pages starts with a Google search. And that's just wrong. That's not what the open web looks like. That's not what an open protocol looks like. If you look at non-AMP traffic and non-AMP refers, the vast majority of traffic is referred from non-Google sources. And if AMP is truly going to be an open standard, then we need to make sure that non-Google sources can be driving traffic to AMP. Discovery is a problem that needs to be solved. Second is there's a brand challenge, and a lot of people have talked about this. And the fact is that if you're Bloomberg and you're on AMP, the URL at the top of the page says Google. And that has real brand risk to you. But it's more important than that, because the domain that is delivering the content is the one that gets to drop the cookie, and the cookie is who's going to be able to deliver the audience. And if you're doing this, if you are the one who is delivering content across Google, then the risk is that the unique audience that you've developed yourself, you're losing potentially. It is not a good enough answer to say, trust us, we'll give you the data, right? Again, we don't want to be the project that's like, instant articles. We want to be something which is open, publisher-friendly, developer-friendly, and it's very important that there's a way that if you're building and curating a unique audience, you can actually deliver that. The other thing is, if you go to an AMP experience now, run a search on Google for Trump, and you'll see the carousel that comes up. Click on one of those AMP ads, swipe to the right, you just go to another article on Trump. Nobody reads the news that way, right? Editors actually matter, and if you think about what a great experience it is when you see a well-curated publication where you're going from one story to a story that goes deeper on that story to a story that's related and tangential, that's exactly what we need to be delivering to people. We need to have curated experiences, and AMP can actually make that better, but right now it's not doing it because, again, there isn't enough control for individual publishers. The last piece is monetization, and our friends over at 33across did a survey, and they said, what are the top problems? Yeah, go 33across. I see Eric's out there. The number one and number two concerns with AMP were, one, you got less revenue per page view, and two, even though there are ads on AMP pages, those ads load slowly, and that's actually more of a problem when the page loads fast because people scroll past the ads before they even see them. Your viewability rates go down, and publishers can't monetize that content. There aren't enough options to actually make AMP pages monetize, and if we can't monetize those pages, like the people who are creating content, they need to be able to eat. And so we need to have ways that people can actually monetize those pages, and it's critical. Hooray for eating, yeah. Thank you. That's good. Yeah. So we've been working with Google on this. I don't know why there are 6 builds there. We've been working with Google to try and solve these top 3 issues. And I am super excited today to introduce what we're calling Ampersand. And Ampersand is the first non-Google cache that you can white label and make your own and control in the ways that you as publishers should be able to control it. It's served from your own domain. It's as fast as the Google cache, and we have data to back that up. It's secure by default because we're a security company and we care about that enormously. We've made it incredibly simple to add applications and other widgets that you can use to either enhance your AMP pages or add monetization units. And it allows for a fully curated experience where your editors and your storytellers can actually sit down and tell stories with AMP pages better than you've ever been able to do before. Now, this wasn't easy. We've been working on this for over a year. We built an entire team in Austin, Texas, to build this out. And in the early days of the AMP project, there wasn't a lot of documentation. And it's not as simple as just saying, we're going to deliver content like a CDN across our entire network. There are actually server-side optimizations that have to be built in order for this to work. There's actually cryptographic code that needs to sign all of this. And so we have been a very, very, very extensive partner in the AMP project to make sure it just works. And the cache that we deliver is not only fast, not only delivered from around the world, but it's fully validated against the AMP spec. And as the AMP spec changes, as there are changes to that, we are updating our side of our code to make sure that you are getting all of the benefits from the latest and greatest of AMP, even if you're using ampersand and not the Google cache. So how does ampersand solve the three biggest challenges of AMP today? Discovery, brand, and monetization. Let me go through each of those and tell you how we're thinking about those challenges and how we're addressing them. So first of all, discovery. The problem with AMP today is, again, 90% of traffic which is delivered to AMP is driven from a Google search. And yet there are all kinds of other platforms out there that are trying to get people to have the fastest possible mobile experience. And they've tried various things to integrate AMP to a lesser or greater extent. But it's obvious, I mean, it's just painfully obvious, that if you're Bing, you can't be driving content to Google. It just won't work, right? In the long term, there has to be an independent flavor of AMP that allows you to continue to control the audience that you have and yet get all the benefits and all the experience that you've got. Other organizations like Twitter are driving people to the native AMP, the local AMP version of the page, and yet you don't get any of the distribution from the global network if you do it that way. You also don't get any of the server-side optimizations if you do it that way. And so it's not an ideal experience. We needed a better solution. And so starting about 2 months ago, we launched out what we call Accelerated Mobile Links, or AML. And what AML does is for any provider which is on Cloudflare, they can click one button, and we have an API that automatically will run on their pages and identify links on those pages. And if there's an AMP version of the link, and someone is accessing it from a mobile phone, then we will automatically rewrite that link to drive traffic to the AMP version. And it's been amazing in terms of the success. We thought it would be adopted by the smallest publishers on our network. Exactly the opposite has happened. Some of the largest publishers on our network have adopted AML and turned it on their sites. We have 24,000 different publishers that have already signed up for AML. And again, that works in a just make it extremely easy sort of way. But for most of the people in this audience, you need something that's a lot more sophisticated. And so what we're announcing today is the full SDK where you can take the AML experience and integrate it into your app. We have an API that you can hit for any link on your page that will tell you if there's an AMP version of that link available. And then you can drive that experience to the actual ampersand cache, which you can actually skin and brand and make your own. So the discovery experience can actually be controlled by the discovery engines, and you're not losing that traffic as it goes on. We've built a full AMP viewer, which you can now white label and turn into your own and integrate into whatever application it is that you are there, and you can tell stories with that viewer. So imagine Reddit turn this on across their platform. When you went to an AMP page and you swiped to the right, it wouldn't be going to the Washington Post or the next publisher. It would be going to the next related story that Reddit has on their pages, so they continue to build the engagement with their audience that they are delivering traffic for. What we want to make sure we're able to do is take social platforms, other non-Google search engines, content aggregators, and make sure that they can drive the AMP experience, because the AMP experience is a better experience, but we need to make sure that other providers are able to drive that discovery directly. And what's amazing about this is we've already seen the effects of it from our AML launch, where we see that 2 out of the 5 people that click on an AML link then click the X button and return back to the original site, which means that the site which is providing the discovery engine is actually driving more engagement with their users. You're not losing that visitor as they leave your discovery engine and then wander off through the rest of the web. They're using you as a launching point and then coming back to where they started. And that's a great experience for those people who are content aggregators, search engines, social networks that are driving discovery out there. We need to bring them into the AMP fold, and we think ampersand is a really great start in doing that. The second big challenge that exists in this space is around brand. And brand is important for a lot of different reasons, but it's especially important in this space because what we can't allow to happen is for content providers to be just completely commodified. It's important that we reward the people who are building unique audiences and let them control those audiences and tell stories to those audiences. And the problem is that if you're serving all of your content under somebody else's domain, then you are losing control of the unique audience that you have built. And that's one of the biggest objections to the AMP project that we're hearing over and over again. So we thought it was critical that we actually solve that. So for publishers, we're now providing a way for you to have a white-labeled AMP cache where you can deliver your AMP content under your own domain. And that can be true either in the iframe that is behind whoever is the ultimate top-level domain, or it can actually be true in the top-level domain as well, so that, again, you control your audience. And again, I think this is so important. Editors are important. It's important to tell stories where people can start with one story and then dig deeper on a particular topic. The way that the AMP experience works today, where a Google search for Trump takes you to one story, and then you just read the same story on Fox News, and then Bloomberg, and then Slate, and then the Washington Post, that's not what people want to do. What people want to do is start with a publication, land on that page, and then go deeper as they swipe to the right. And what we have now provided is a way that you can control how that carousel works on your own publication. And you can make sure that your editors, your storytellers are the ones that can actually use the platform, use the technology in order to tell stories better. It's your content. It's your users, it's your data. You should be able to have control of that. And we think it's incredibly important that we don't just commodify the publishers that are creating unique content over time. Again, AMP's strength is its openness. And there's been a lot of criticism of Google that they're trying to build a walled garden just like our friends over at Facebook are doing. I don't think that criticism is fair. And I don't think that is what we have experienced when we have worked with the Google team. Google really does believe in a free and open web. A free and open world is critical. A free and open web is critical to a free and open web. And that's a story that we have heard firsthand from Google over and over again. And I think it's important to recognize some of the very valid concerns that they have had in not sort of saying, let's have a bunch of other caches that are out there. They were worried about speed, right? They wanted to make sure that it was as fast as possible, because if it wasn't fast, then it wasn't good for the user, and the number one priority of the AMP project was be good to the user, and so it had to be fast. And if all of you are out there building kind of half-baked caches, they're not going to be fast. You have to build a giant network in order to make that work. They worried about data leakage, right? Which is that when you run a Google search and there are AMP content on the page, if those pages are being pre-rendered, then there's a risk that the end publisher can get that data. And if you had a rogue publisher that was out there that was stealing data, then they could potentially take data from individual users in a way that just is icky, right? And that's a real concern. And it's something that we should really respect and think about. And then there are security concerns. The way AMP works, you're serving JavaScript that's on a page that is first party. And if all of a sudden that JavaScript is able to find some sort of security vulnerability in Google, then potentially it could steal Google's own cookies or Google's own security information. And I think these are all incredibly valid concerns. I don't think that the reason why Google is serving things under their own domain is because they're trying to build a walled garden. I think it's because these are real, and we need to respect them. What's a good thing, though, is the way that we've built Ampersand, we've addressed all those concerns. We've made sure that it's as fast as Google everywhere around the world, and in those places where we're not as fast yet, we're working to make it fast. And in a lot of places, especially in China and other places where it's hard for Google to participate, we're already significantly faster. From a data leakage perspective, we can actually work with them to say we're going to be that party that doesn't actually transfer that data on to rogue publishers. And we can find a way, if we don't have 1,000 caches, but we have a limited number, to make sure that you can keep that data private. And from a security perspective, again, we can make sure that we're not delivering rogue JavaScript that could potentially compromise Google's users. There are ways to overcome these objections, and if we can overcome these objections, again, you answer every single one of the major concerns about adopting AMP. Every concern that was brought up on stage yesterday, every concern that was brought up on stage going forward, we can address if we make sure that there's a limited number of responsible caches out there that are fast, that protect data, and are secure from the beginning. And again, we're really proud to be one of the first to have launched that. Which then takes us to the big topic of monetization. None of this makes any sense. None of this works if you all can't actually make money from delivering the content which is across the pages you're on. And again, the biggest concern about AMP is it's great, we're getting higher engagement, we're getting more people reading more articles, but unfortunately, we're not able to monetize these pages. And there's some confusion here. There's a confusion around AMP ads versus regular ads. An ad on an AMP page is not an AMP ad, right? And what happens is, again, if you look, AMP ads actually load incredibly quickly and load with the content. Regular ads delivered on AMP are actually significantly less effective than ads delivered on slower pages, because by the time the page loads so fast, people scroll past the ad before it's even in the viewability state. So you need to actually deliver AMP ads on AMP pages and make those as fast as possible. And so we announced about a month ago what we call Firebolt. And Firebolt is AMP ads delivered for AMP pages that load incredibly quickly. We've been testing this with a number of different partners. TripleLift was one of the partners that we've been working with. We've been working with Time Inc. On this. And what they saw was for the same audience, with the same content, with the only difference being deliver it with Firebolt, they saw a 13% lift in revenue. They saw that the ads loaded 6 times faster, and that the weight of the ads, the number of bytes to deliver the ads, was 1/3 of what it would have been before. And that last point is extremely important, because on mobile, especially in the developing world, a lot of times it costs more for a user to download the data for the ad than the publisher is getting in the CPM for that particular user. That is the definition of a deadweight loss. And so it's important that as we build ads for a mobile ecosystem, that they work in a way that supports that mobile ecosystem. And AMP ads or Firebolt ads do exactly that. And we've been working with that, and we've seen incredible results as a part of that. So what we're able to do, this is not a replacement for ad networks. We're not building an ad server. Again, we are just the distribution platform for existing ad servers that are out there. We can sign the ads, we can do all the server-side optimizations, and we work with a number of different ad networks and ad servers and other types of publishers. And again, openness is key here. We can't allow whoever are the dominant ad networks to use AMP as a way to further entrench their particular control over an entire space. It's important that this space stay open, and regardless of what ad networks or ad tags you choose to have on your page, that you can get the experience at each different step with each different provider. We can't allow one provider to say, we're going to use this new technology to further entrench ourselves as the dominant network. Again, Voldemort v. Voldemort isn't an interesting story. We've got to make sure that the AMP ecosystem stays open. So here are some different things that we've been doing in order to help publishers monetize. So one is a partnership we've done with VigLink. If you're not familiar with VigLink, what VigLink does is if somebody posts a link on a page and it's for a particular product, VigLink will automatically associate referral codes with that product. So when you click on that link and go to that particular product, if someone buys that product afterwards, then the publisher can actually get codes with that product, so fee for that. They do it automatically. Unfortunately for VigLink, because of the way they rewrite content on pages, they can slow pages down. And that's against one of the core tenets of what AMP is delivering. And so we said, is there a way that we can deliver VigLink without slowing pages down? And we worked with them in order to make sure that server-side we can actually rewrite the links on the page without slowing those links down, and they can deliver that through our network. This is a way of us taking monetization technologies which were previously not allowed under the AMP standard and finding ways to make sure that publishers continue to monetize without sacrificing the user. because the ad tech space has gone wrong in the sense that it sacrificed the user, it sacrificed speed, it sacrificed privacy. We need to take those things back, but we still need to make sure that publishers can eat. So we have to continue to have ways that publishers can monetize their content. We've made this one-click simple with VigLink, made it so that you can continue, if this is one of the ways that you monetize your traffic, that you can continue to get this advantage while still staying AMP compliant. Another partner that we've been working with is 33Across. And it's just incredible to see what we've been able to do with them, where we've made it one-click simple for you to insert AMP ads, incredibly fast, incredibly performant AMP ads on the fly as content is passing through the network, so that those ads load simultaneously with the content which is actually on the page. Again, we want to make this extremely easy for publishers to be able to actually monetize their content, and we want to work with as many ad networks as possible to make sure that they can deliver content on the AMP format with true AMP ads so that those ads will perform, and in the future, you'll actually get more revenue per AMP page, not less. One of the big criticisms of AMP has been that you can't build interesting content with it. And I think we saw yesterday where an entire chat service was built within AMP, and that's incredibly powerful. The same is true for ads, where you can build incredibly rich content of advertising through the AMP standard as it exists today. What's been missing are the tools to do that. And yet, they're starting to appear. And so this is Celtra. They're a drag and drop, what you see is what you get, ad creation product where it actually delivers an AMP compliant ad. It's automatically signed by ampersand and then delivered across any AMP valid delivery network. And again, look how robust you can make this. This is drag and drop simple. One of the keys is we have to get more AMP creative that's actually being delivered. And Celtra is doing a great job of that. And again, they've been a terrific partner for us. And there are other ad networks that we're working as well. So this is, again, one of the global financial ad networks. It's become incredibly simple to integrate Firebolt. The thing to take away from this is that they were, within less than a week, able to build a fully compliant AMP delivery ad system across their entire network simply by hooking into Firebolt and delivering it across there. We want as many different ad networks to be able to support true AMP ads as possible. Today, there are only 5. Right? One is Google, the other 4 use Firebolt. We need to make sure that every single ad network out there is doing that. And so if you're a publisher here and you're using an ad network that's still delivering slow ads to your customers on your AMP pages, make sure that you work with them, tell them that there are ways now that they can actually start delivering that content, because that means, again, what we've seen is 13% revenue increases from that content. And it's not just ad networks. We're starting to actually see ad servers other than Google that are delivering AMP content. And so AdZerk is the first non-Google ad server to actually be delivering AMP content for AMP ads across different pages. And they've rolled this out, again, powered by Firebolt, to be able to deliver this content across all of their different customers. And they're seeing great results as a result of that. When I think about what's exciting about AMP, again, it's Harry Potter versus Voldemort. We have an opportunity to throw out all of the bad pieces that were wrong with mobile development and start from a really fresh, clean slate where we can build a much better mobile web experience. And an open web is a better web. If we're all locked behind one monolithic app that's out there, that's not good for anyone in this room. We want people to be able to innovate, create, tell great stories, get paid for that content they're creating, and have an open and innovative network as a part of that. And we don't want anything of the new technology that is being rolled out to further entrench one particular provider or another. Openness is the strength of AMP, and we need to make sure that that ecosystem continues to get richer, continues to get more open, and it continues to be able to deliver great content. So we're extremely excited to be working with everyone in the AMP community. It's been great working with Google. Their vision very much is for an open internet and aligns very much with what it is that we think is critical for the future of the web and the future of AMP. We think it's important to keep AMP open. A lot of exciting developments. Hopefully, if there are things that we've talked about today that inspire you for ways that we can help you deliver stories, tell stories, deliver your content better, we'd be happy to talk to you about this. This is something that we think is the future of the mobile web, and we're excited and a big contributor to the AMP project. So thank you very much. Thanks for coming to the AMP conference, and look forward to working with you going forward. Thank you.